So, Rebecca, you have a big event coming up. And when do you start working on it? The week before?
Well, I would ideally say at least 6 months in advance, but if you can do it in a minimum, depending on the industry, how much you need to prepare, at least 3 months in advance. Treat it as a campaign as opposed to a standalone activation, and have everything kind of as cohesively planned as possible. I think in the context of major trade shows, it's not just a case of making sure your stand is looking absolutely beautiful. It's about anticipating any communications and kind of driving as much awareness for your presence as possible. And ultimately, if you're launching a product there, you've got an awful lot more work to do in advance of that as well.
How do you cope with the fact that you might not have all the details about what you're going to be talking about within 6 months?
All too familiar situation. I think have the bones in place. Ultimately, most of the time, if you're likely to be launching a product at an event, or perhaps you've launched or will be launching a product before an event. If that's the case, have the framework in place. You know that you're going to have obviously certain paraphernalia. You're going to have the products and the tools there to be able to demonstrate the product as efficiently as possible. But if you're not, and you're looking for kind of purpose and presence at the event, like how are you going to drive awareness for that, and what is your purpose there? And I think that boils down to thought leadership and being able to maximize on and sweat an event as an opportunity as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's almost silly. Like you're spending like a ridiculous amount of money on a booth, and then you just, focus on that week when you have all the runway to the event to do all the legwork. And get those leads in before they arrive to the stand, because you might be able to rely on serendipity a little bit, and having a nice location always helps for foot traffic.
Yeah,
but you can't just rely on that, can you?
No, and again, to the point of planning, and there's a saying in the military. I grew up with a military father that has many P's in it and swear words, but it's to do with prior planning and preparation. I think, there's others in the team that might know what that saying is. He has the camera currently. But ultimately, it comes down to critical planning. Treat it as a campaign as opposed to a standalone event. And I think having as many opportunities to milk that content both before and after, because I see an event in many ways as content, because it is depending on how you're representing yourself there. But build anticipation, build awareness before you're actually in attendance. And that can come from the form of press coverage. That can come in the form of announcing your presence at the event. It can be talking about a topic perhaps that is going to be related to your presence at the event, be that a product launch, be that some kind of industry thought awareness, thought leadership content. I think it's a case of milking as much content, as much opportunity out there as you can.
What would you say are the channels that you should be focusing on in preparation for an event such as IBC, NAB?
Come down to the full marketing mix. So social media, PR, your website. All of your comms channels that effectively would play a role in any comms campaign that you'd be doing typically.
Yeah, makes sense. How do you make sure that during the event you also maximize the reach, not just with the physical booth and being at the event? How do you manage to engage those who, for example, maybe couldn't attend?
Yeah, but I think looking at all the different touch points, and to the point of the multi-channel activation, if they can't attend the event, make sure the content or the content being used to launch a product or to channel any for awareness content or any speaking opportunities that you have is then promoted through press channels. It's summarized in a blog on your website. It's then shared through social media. A really clear and concise key content marketing strategy to then milk those assets.
Absolutely. And how you leave the event, you wrap up the stand and go to the pub and that's it? You forget?
No, not at all. No, as much as I think many people would like it to be, although they will go to the pub and then the next day they have to pick back up again. Sadly, no battle work, no rest for the wicked. And that all plays a part in your strategy and your content strategy as well. So make sure you've got a clear plan on how you're going to continue driving that message, driving that product launch after the event. So a press campaign, some thought leadership, a really good example. I'll link back to in the description is to our website for a Luxor Turner campaign. And we supported them with the Media Production and Technology show back in May of 2025. And we'd collaborated with them on a number of speaking opportunities before. We'd followed a similar process. But this campaign, just for many reasons, really stood out for us. And we were driving awareness for their presence at the event prior to it. They didn't have a stand or anything. It was just a case of the fact that they had some speaking opportunities. They were there. They had meetings organised in advance. So this one's really critical as well, obviously, isn't planning meetings in advance. So we had all of that planned out and mapped out in terms of who they were going to be approaching, in terms of who they were going to be networking with, in terms of what stands they wanted to attend themselves, in terms of potential customer, in terms of industry contacts. Then we secured the announcement of press coverage with broadcast, which plays a role in MBI, the MBTS, and that was driving further awareness for their presence in the talk. Then, naturally, Emma from Lux Eterna, who's their executive producer, participated in the State of the Nation talk for visual effects, which is a key date in the diary of MPTS. She had really great, strong presence there. We were involved in the entire briefing process of her participating in the panel. I was personally involved on the planning discussions as well to make sure Lux Eterna were positioning their brand as effectively as possible. The nature of a State of a Nation talk, you're going to be talking about generative AI, you're going to be talking about industry challenges, particularly facing visual effects and tax credits as well. So a lot of sensitive topics that we had to anticipate in advance to make sure Lux Eterna were positioning themselves as ethically and effectively as possible.
How do you measure the success of attending an event? Because that's the conversation always in the marketing team, like, do we attend? Do we not attend? Post-COVID, like, does it still make sense to go to events? Do we need them? I think the jury is out around, like, nothing replaces face-to-face and building a network and having those relationships. But how do you actually build the case with the CEO and say, we need to spend 100K or 400K on this event?
I think, to your point, you need some kind of justification in terms of metrics, yes, but it really depends on your presence at an event. So yes, if you're going all out and you're producing a stand, then use this opportunity not just to showcase your brand or showcase a product, but you could be looking at traction on the stand. You could be doing market research surveys, clocking everyone that has a conversation with you, looking at your MQLs, your SQLs as a result of what would be an event, a marketing qualified lead. It would be, because that is a marketing role to play there, which then would be passed on to sales. So that again in itself is a really credible, tangible result and lead as a result of it. But then again, as we're discussing, like, all of the content that comes out as a result after the event, everything that can be repurposed for your channels for months, perhaps even a year after the event takes place itself, is incredibly valuable. And it's that awareness that you get as a result for it. It's the traffic back to the website as a result. Really depends on your objective for presenting there. And I think when you've had those difficult conversations with your sales director, your commercial director, your CEO, even a marketing director, just
how many leads?
Yeah, doesn't they close. Set those expectations in advance ultimately. And I think that's always the case, is that people go in blindly and like, right, let's do this event. Let's do this trade show, and not actually setting any objectives as to why they want to attend and what they want to get out of it.
Or the planning, like you can attend IBC or NAB or whatever. If you don't do the work, then probably you're just going to burn money.
No, exactly. And that is unfortunate. That is an unfortunate casualty of so many brands, that just they see the pressure of many of their peers attending. And some of these are really big manufacturers, really, really big contenders. And because they're in attendance and they have endless pockets, they feel the pressure to attend themselves, and might not necessarily see these events as opportunities to go there and network, but also to try and grasp speaking opportunities and basically things that aren't budget busters, essentially. You don't need to have tangible physical presence in the terms of a stand. You can just, there are other ways, exactly.
Absolutely.